Most of you probably don't know this, but the whole reason why we created this YouTube channel, followed by creating the SMMA Blueprint roughly 7 years ago now, is that we just saw some plain bad and blatantly incorrect advice being given out by other YouTube gurus, people in Facebook groups, and other places online that were being implemented by novice agency owners just starting on their journey. There are 5 trends that I really see as an issue that have gotten very popular over the last 12 months that I'd suggest everybody leave behind in 2024. The first trend that I have a problem with is needing hundreds of meetings per month for your agency to be successful. This is an absolutely crazy trend that exists for no reason other than to get views on YouTube videos and to sell services or courses to agency owners. There's absolutely no reason why an agency owner should need hundreds of meetings in a single month in order to be successful. If you see a video like this, it's either just to get clicks on the video, or if you feel like you need hundreds of meetings in a month to get clients, there's probably something broken in your process that if you change, will start driving much better results than you've seen with your agency to date. For perspective, today, Derek and I close roughly 9 out of every 10 prospective qualified business leads that we speak with. Our service packages range from roughly $8,000 to $15,000 per month. With those numbers, if we had 50 meetings in 1 month today, that would mean that we're bringing on roughly 45 clients in a 30-day period, which would completely inundate our entire team and our entire process. Our current client work would start to suffer, and we would churn current clients, which we obviously don't want to do. Most agency owners think that they're not closing clients because they're just simply not having enough meetings. However, it's quite the opposite. It's what's happening during those meetings that's holding you back. To give you a quick cheat sheet, usually I notice that agency owners are doing a couple things wrong if they feel like they need more and more meetings in order to get clients on board. Number 1 is you're not being viewed as professional enough or experienced enough in order to help them. 2 is you're talking all about yourself or all about your agency in these discussions with prospective clients, and you're not actually taking the time to learn anything about their business or anything about them. Or number 3 is you're not moving your sales process forward in an effective manner where you're taking them from somebody who decided to spend 30 minutes of time hearing about how you could potentially help their business into the next level of the sales cycle and eventually becoming a prospective client for you. The key here is to drive better outcomes from less meetings. Trend number 2 to get rid of is money back guarantees. Money back guarantees dramatically diminish your offer, and they diminish the level of respect and buy-in that the prospective business that you're speaking with has in your business and in your service. If you can't close a client without offering their money back, they're not invested enough in the future of their business with your agency in order to make the strategy successful. The money back guarantee doesn't change that. It's not up to you to absorb the risk of them experimenting with a digital marketing strategy by paying with your time or with your team's time to see if it's going to be successful for their business. This is something that's difficult for new agency owners to understand though. You're light on experience. Why would they pay you? Because of this, a lot of inexperienced agency owners find themselves jumping on a hamster wheel of money back guarantees. Trend number 3 to do away with is the pay per show model. This is a model that makes sense in theory, but when you really think about it, really makes no sense for 99% of agency owners. Number 1 is it's almost impossible to actually accurately track this and to have accountability from your client. Number 2 is it almost always ends in some sort of a dispute or friction between you and your client, and I've heard so many horror stories about this. If you're not familiar with pay per show, it's a lead gen model that you only get paid for the appointment if the lead or the appointment actually ends up happening. The problem with this though is twofold. 1, once again, your client's really not actually bought in. There's no real risk for them involved. I've heard horror stories from so many agency owners who worked with clients that didn't maintain their end of the deal. They didn't send confirmation emails, they didn't follow up with them to make sure that the time still worked, and because the agency owner actually did what they were paid to do, they brought that person to the appointment and it was really up to the client to fail. This almost always ends in a dispute because that agency owner feels that they should be paid and the business owner feels like per the terms of the pay per show agreement, they shouldn't have to pay, regardless of whether it was their fault or not. The same goes for actually tracking meetings that do happen. When you start driving leads, clients are historically terrible at tracking this. You'll ask them about a meeting, they'll have to go and check their notes, they'll say it didn't happen just for an opportunity to later appear later down the line. It's incredibly difficult to track and manage this process. It also doesn't take into account the value that you're driving for people that maybe don't take that next step right away and actually book the appointment or book the call, but from your paid ad strategies, you're adding those contacts into their database that have a very high likelihood of eventually turning into a potential deal or revenue growth for your client. Because of this, you won't be compensated for this due to the nature of the way that the model is set up. Instead of offering a pay-per-show model, what I would suggest that you do is instead suggest a realistic number of appointments or leads or meetings that they might expect per month during that 3-month initial trial that I suggested. Set a realistic expectation, tell them there's no guarantee, but that's why you're providing a discount on that first 3 months of service, and be underway with your new client. Trend number 4 to do away with is niche hopping. If there's one way to get yourself into big trouble with your social media marketing agency, is to be jumping around from one thing to the next, to the next, to the next, without any real strategy or any real sense of focus. I'm gonna throw a graph up on the screen here. On the first graph, you have 5 bars, and you give attention to each of the 5 bars. Spreading your attention across these 5 bars means that you're only making a set amount of progress on each of the 5. You're not really getting any closer to your goal, and it's all incremental. However, if you give all of your focus to one of the bars, all of those dispersed efforts instead compound into one single strategy in one single direction. As you can see, this moves you closer and closer and closer to your goal. The same is true for SMMA and niches. You need to be focused. When you're first getting started, I do recommend trying a number of different niches that you feel that you have some sort of knowledge or perhaps a competitive advantage in, or at least something that you're actually passionate about learning more about. Once you have a niche that's delivering better outcomes for your business than the others, double, triple, 10x down on that niche. Stay the course, remain focused, and enjoy the competitive advantage that you built in the niche that you've been working on. This is something that those other folks on YouTube don't have, and it won't be long before you become the next success story. Trend number 5 to do away with is the concept of white labeling. Put simply, white labeling basically means that you build an agency, contract out the work to a different third-party white label agency. This could be a Facebook ad agency, this could be a Google ad agency, you name it, but basically they employ the contractors and then you hire that agency to deliver results for your client. This is very, very different than outsourcing and hiring contractors for your own business. When you hire contractors, this means that they're actually just contracted with you and your agency versus having an intermediary third party. This is a proven model. Some of the biggest companies in the world like Deloitte, KPMG, PwC employ tens of thousands of contractors, and they have massive, massive equity because at the end of the day, they own those contracts with the contractors. They're not white labeling out to some other consulting firm. White labeling is a major problem because at the end of the day, you have no control over results. You might hire this agency and the first person that they put on a client project for you might be a total rock star that does a great job. The next person might be the worst experience that you've ever had, and you have no control over it because at the end of the day, again, you don't own that business, you don't own those contracts. The second problem is that you really have no actual equity. You're not actually building anything that you really own. You're just basically an intermediary between the client and your white label agency. This can become a huge problem when it comes to actually building equity in an actual company. Problem number 3 is that you have no control over their business model. They could raise prices, they could go out of business, they could just get tired of running the business and one day close up shop, and you're stuck holding the bag with nobody to deliver results for your clients. This is really no less risky than having a 9-to-5 job and suddenly being laid off. A great video to watch after this one would be this one right here, where my business partner Derek talks you through how to completely set up an SMMA this year.